that ongoing genocide. And the only platform this man deserves is one at The Hague, which eventually is where he will end up with the rest of the government that he currently represents. Let's not forget that there are already 2 arrest warrants in place for him and Yoel Gallant.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we have another cracker of a video. We have the highly intelligent journalist Ahmed Eldin versus the highly unintelligent former IDF spokesperson Jonathon Conricus and presenter Miriam Francois debating on the future of Palestine following the ceasefire. Let's kick off the debate with a little monologue which almost put everyone to sleep from Jonathon Conricus.
A pivotal moment here. Jonathon, let me start with you. We've talked a lot in the last year. For people who haven't got into the weeds about what this deal may look like, summarize it in very simple terms for us.
Yes, hello, Piers, and I hope this will be a good year for all of us. Just before I answer, I take it upon myself to continue with the practice we did in previous episodes of not interrupting anybody unless interrupted myself, and I think the viewers will enjoy that. To your question, I think that what we have before us is a deal that, strategically speaking, is not good for Israel and it's not good for Gazans. It's not good because it prolongs the problem. Hamas will still remain in power over the Gaza Strip, and we won't see strategic change as long as Hamas is there. We can all rest assured that there will be continued misery, suffering, fighting, and war in Gaza between Hamas-led Gaza and Israel. The only good thing that may come of this, and I'm really, really hopeful that it happens, is that we will see the return home of hopefully as many as possible of the 96 remaining Israeli hostages that have languished in Hamas captivity for 470 days.
Summarize the ceasefire deal for those people watching. His answer was that of a 5-year-old. It's good for one party, but not so much for the other. A better answer could have been given by literally anyone. He mentions the ceasefire deal is not good for Israel or Gaza because Hamas still remains. Hamas or freedom fighters have been in Gaza for over 20 years. Not only that, but Israel has had multiple opportunities to get rid of them over the last 2 decades. They had an open pass for the last 15 months to burn Gaza to the ground, and they still haven't defeated them. This is why the ceasefire deal doesn't benefit Israel.
Look, to unpack there, Miriam Francois, your response.
Well, first of all, we don't take any of our cues on anything to do with ethics, morality, or assessment of the Middle East from a spokesperson for a genocidal government. So let's be absolutely clear that Jonathon is here 16 months into a genocide to provide cover for that ongoing genocide. And the only platform this man deserves is one at The Hague, which eventually is where he will end up with the rest of the government that he currently represents. Let's not forget that there are already 2 arrest warrants in place for him and Yoel Gallant, him being Netanyahu, that this man here represents, the spokesperson of that very government.
Well, he's not the spokesman for that government.
He's a spokesman for the IDF, which is what?
He's not. He's an independent citizen now.
Oh, so. for Piers.
Well, he's not.
Spare me. Okay.
Sorry, you said he's the spokesman for the IDF. He's not.
Okay, Piers. Of course he's not. He's just here as a friendly former member of the IDF.
You called him the spokesman for the IDF. He's not.
He literally is. But
he literally is not.
Okay, Piers.
Well, that's an actual job. Mm-hmm. So I don't mean to be... to be factual, he's not the spokesman for the IDF. Okay. He's here in an independent capacity.
He's not in an independent capacity, but sure thing. Now, moving on to the terms of the deal. This man is not a reference for any analysis on that. I think the most important question is what is going to happen to the civilians who are caught up in this conflict. That is the only real question at stake here, whether they are Palestinians or Israelis. And after 16 months of conflict, there must be a resolution. Now, we know that Netanyahu has systematically catapulted any attempts to bring about a peace agreement. And it appears from what our spokesperson has been saying, that is unfortunately where the current proposed deal is likely to head. But to me, I don't think you could even...
Are you a spokesperson for Hamas, just out of interest?
Oh, spare me, Piers.
Are you?
Spare me.
Well, by the same yardstick, if you're going to say that Jonathon Conricus has a formal job on this panel as a spokesman for IDF,
yes.
I'm just asking you
he
then,
served in the
if
IDF
you're here to take the other side, are you therefore de facto a spokesperson for Hamas?
Babes, spare me.
I'm not your babe.
Okay, well, and
I'm just asking you, if you're going to give people labels, they should be accurate.
Yes,
otherwise, viewers may get a misleading view about what is happening.
So, anyways,
can I jump in, Piers?
Sure.
Just to
Please
clarify?
do, Ahmed.
Miriam doing a fantastic job, and we need people like her not only for an interesting debate but for someone who's literally spitting facts and not afraid to call people out to their face. Jonathon Conricus literally has an arrest warrant on his big head and is casually sitting there on the Piers Morgan show debating on the ceasefire deal. How hypocritical is that? Not only that, but I find it extremely unfair that Jonathon is able to sit and say what he wants, yet Piers seems like he's become his best friend. Piers continues to cut off Miriam and eventually completely censors her. It's a shame really, as I think she had a lot of interesting things to say.
All I'd like to say is he was a spokesperson for the IDF.
Yes,
that's
indeed.
accurate. That's accurate, but he's not. But Ahmed, you would agree he's not the current spokesman for the IDF, and these things actually matter because the current spokesman for the IDF, I can tell you, would not be saying what Jonathon's saying. That's why I know he's speaking as an independent voice, because he's been very critical of a deal that the IDF spokesman would not be critical of. So these things are important.
Sure. Facts and truths are important.
Yes.
And I think anybody who's served as a former spokesman for the IDF is certainly not considered impartial or independent. But if I may, I want to share with all of us.
I never claimed to be partial or independent, to be honest.
So let's not get derailed.
It's just better to use accurate. It's better to be using accurate terminology about whether people have official roles or they don't. And just to be clear, Jonathon Conricus is no longer any form of official spokesman for IDF. He's here as an independent person, albeit, as he says, not with non-partisan views. He's openly clear about that, but he's not an official spokesman. I think that matters for viewers who are watching, who may be confused as to whether, because of what Miriam said, he is. He's not.
No, Piers, I agree with you. Facts matter, and I want to start by addressing an uncomfortable truth. Any ceasefire deal, since we're talking about a ceasefire, that leaves the illegal blockade and occupation of Palestine intact is going to be, by definition, temporary. You can describe it as a Band-Aid on a wound that requires surgery without addressing the root causes of the violence, the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, the illegal occupation of Palestinian land. This cycle will continue. And I think we're here to talk about a ceasefire and whether that will lead to peace, as Jonathon talked about, because we've all seen the harrowing images coming out of Gaza. Piers, I know you've seen them because you share them on your social media.
They're horrific.
They're heartbreaking. They're relentless. And frankly, they're a moral test for all of us, including Jonathon. How can we, as human beings, witness what we've witnessed and not only be overwhelmed by helplessness, but not confront the mechanisms that enable this impunity? That's where we have to start. And the ceasefire...
Well, actually, okay, let me stop you there, because I think this is important to clarify where I come from.
Jonathon Conricus is a cricket in a basket. His official role was previously as IDF spokesman, but we all know for an absolute fact that he is not there as an individual voice. He absolutely has ties, strong ties within the Israeli government. As Ahmed said, and I love the way this man speaks, the ceasefire deal is only going to be temporary. Let's not forget that when it was announced by Joe Biden, official news was that the Israeli government hadn't even voted on it, and yet the world was misinformed with more lies. There's no guarantee that we're ever going to get to stage 2 or 3 of the ceasefire deal. The war, in my eyes, will unfortunately continue.
I prefer to start from this whole thing in totality, going back to October the 7th, and the heinous attack on Israel.
It's totality October
I'm not
the 7th.
talking to you. No,
but I am talking.
Well, I'm talking
and I'm
to
letting
Ahmed.
you know that it didn't start on October the 7th.
No, there's obviously...
And if you want to take it in your totality...
No, I'm talking to Ahmed, if you don't mind. Just show some respect for your fellow panellists,
No,
please.
I do mind. If you want to start from the beginning, let's start from 1948.
Yes, I'm about to say that. If you let me just finish what I'm saying.
Welcome.
Obviously, I know there is 75 years of history. Response in isolation and not record the fact that on October the 7th, 7,000 people were wounded or killed and over 250 were kidnapped. So I just want to put it in totality because I think as we reach a point of potential ceasefire or some kind of agreement, it's the only way to be fair about this.
So on October the 7th, 12 or 1,300 people were killed. Let's not forget that Israel fired and were responsible for almost a quarter of that. However, that does not justify the massacre of almost 50,000 people, destruction of an entire region, starvation and displacement of over 2 million people. When we talk about proportionate response, let's never forget these numbers and never forget the people responsible and those who went live on air defending these heinous crimes.
to do with us. When barbarians come into your homeland and steal your women and rape your women, you have to go and humiliate their soldiers and bring your women back.
I can't
and so I
participate
think
in
that this is a very important moment,
I cannot participate
and it's
in a
showing
panel
us
where
what
you
we're
are
going to
saying
be
Ahmed, you're
seeing
free
from the
to
Trump
leave.
No, but where
administration
barbarians
in
enter
terms
your
of
homeland
a
and
new
rape your
foreign
women.
policy.
Yes, that is
And
what
you,
they are.
That's
editor,
what I'm
is
looking
that
forward to in the
really
next
is that really the
administration.
tenor of the conversation, Batya? Barbarians enter your homeland and rape your women?
Yeah,
Where
that
is
is
the
exactly
Okay, out of
what
interest,
they are.
Ahmed.
evidence
Okay.
of rape? No, Piers,
Hang on,
with all due respect, I
What part of that is
Piers,
incorrect?
Hang on,
with all-
please,
Piers,
everybody.
Piers.
Ahmed, I'm very curious.
With all due
I'm very
respect,
curious,
we
Ahmed.
need-
If you don't call what happened on October the 7th barbaric, acts of atrocity committed by barbarians, what would you call it out of interest?
What do you call it?
No, I'm
within
asking Ahmed.
Israeli
Okay,
prison?
I'll
What do you
answer.
happen
I'm
about
not
the
playing what
actions
about
of
it. I'm asking,
I'll
about
answer.
your indignation
Systematically
about the
within
categorization
Israeli
of what
prison.
happened on October the 7th as barbaric.
Come on, we didn't join Piers. The answer to your question, the reason I started speaking is because she called it barbaric. I didn't take issue with that use of, that's on her to use those adjectives. I took issue with the facts that are not accurate. She's claiming women were raped systematically or whatever. That is
Women
not
were
true.
raped.
Let me.
Israel's own
Piers,
prosecutor
Piers,
says there's no evidence.
Let me just challenge you. Israeli authorities admitted last week that after 18 months of investigations, no allegations of rape or sexual assault have been
Because
filed
the victims
from
were
the October 7th
murdered,
attack.
because the victims are dead, because the
Jonathan, let
women
me
were
finish.
murdered
Let
as they
me
were
finish.
raped.
So
Piers,
why
No,
not allow an
you're not going
independent
to
investigation?
to tell
Piers?
lies without any
Have a
responses.
constructive conversation. Let me
There's
just
no
finish for
case
2
to
seconds and I will listen to you.
proceed because the
Even
women
the
were
New York
murdered
Times,
and
after
butchered
canvassing
in
Israeli
cold blood.
hospitals, rape
That's why
crisis
there's
centers,
no
and
file.
sexual assault hotlines, found no evidence of such crimes. In fact, the reporter, Annette Schwartz, noted no one had met a victim of sexual assault. So despite this...
Because they were murdered. It's very convenient when you rape someone and then murder them.
The reason I am saying this...
Guys, you can repeat lies until you're blue in the face.
Let me just finish for 30 seconds. No.
You've been interrupting this entire conversation and filling it with nonsense and lies. You've been saying genocide and quoting all kinds of odd sources.
I am using facts.
It's utter and complete nonsense, and you've been cherry picking.
Jonathan, I'm not cherry picking. I am saying there is a recent
Oh, yes,
UN
you are.
report.
You are cherry picking
Why
with
are
the
you
capital
interrupting
C.
me? You know why you're interrupting me?
You know what? It's
You know why you're
telling
this is
lies.
now becoming
You know why you're
unwatchable again.
interrupting
Okay.
me? Because this is the
You know
playbook.
what? I have read enough. I've read enough reports by people like Christina Lamb at the Sunday Times, one of the great reporters of the world, that it is beyond any doubt that women were sexually assaulted and raped. Right? And if you try and pretend they weren't, then I'm sorry, you're living in cloud cuckoo land in Gaza with Hamas in any kind of power. Do you?
Did we come up against the white man mantra of it's complicated? I think we did, folks. Here we are again.
Well, hang on, what colour are you?
Responding
Hang on, what colour are you?
I'm sadly of your camp, Piers.
You're white. So why are you using
in
skin?
November
Why are you using skin?
2024,
Well, you're sad you're white.
Israel's sadly in your camp is what I said.
What does that mean?
What
do you mean?
Affiliated with your life.
You're going to toss around skin colour, Jives. What do you mean?
Yes. Anyway, your question
what do you mean?
was.
What do you mean?
That in November 2024.
What do you mean by your
Yoav
skin
Gallant,
colour, Jive?
who was Israel's
Are you saying that because we have white
defense
skin, we
minister?
can't comment on this?
Oh, spare me. This little victim thing you do.
It's not a victim thing.
Not
I'm
cute.
asking you to
It's
clarify
just exhausting.
exactly what you mean when you say these things.
And I will tell you exactly what I'm going to clarify, which is that in November 2024, Yoav Gallant, who is a wanted war criminal and Israel's ousted defense minister, actually told the families of hostages that Israel had actually achieved all its military objectives in Gaza. And he was very clear
But that's
on
not my
something
question
that is
for you.
well known
My
within
question for you
Israel.
is, should Hamas...
That is
Okay,
that
but my
the
question for you
hostages
is...
could
Sorry, you have to answer my question,
months
or I'll
ago.
move on to somebody else.
I'm still going to your question.
No, answer my
The
question.
current deal,
Should Hamas have any power going forward after this or not?
I'm a talk. Political objectives of this deal are not, unfortunately, peace, which is the only sort of deal that we should be discussing at this
Should
point.
Hamas have
We are
any power
talking
after
about
this?
A political. I'm not Palestinian. How is it for me to even answer that question? What I will tell you.
You seem
is
a
that
world
we
authority. A world authority on everything Israel's doing, but you can't even answer a basic question about whether Hamas should have any power after this?
Yes, sweetheart, I just do analysis.
I'm not your sweetheart. I'm not your daddy. I'm not any of these stupid little jibes you're doing. I am white, a slur you seem to think is somehow worth delivering in the middle of this.
The current deal that we have on the table is really not a ceasefire deal, unfortunately, because there are no guarantees that phase 2 and 3 of the deal will ever be brought about. And I think that's really where the focus of this conversation should be.
You can't answer my question about Hamas having power.
Why don't we talk about serious things, Piers?
Why don't you just answer my question? I would actually say whether Hamas has power after this is a pretty damn serious question.
Do you think they should? I will get to that.
Do you think they should?
I will get to that.
Get to it now, because this is the question I've asked you.
I will get to it on my own time.
What's your answer?
My answer is, are you ready to hear it?
Answer it.
Little drum roll for you. Dum-dum-dum-dum. Is that we should be looking at a peace deal that achieves actual peace in the region.
Should Hamas have any power?
At the moment, the current phased proposal does not allow
one more time before I leave you. Should Hamas have any power?
You're going to leave me? Oh, that would be sad. Let's actually talk about
I wouldn't worry about it, because you'll never be back here again. But just for the purposes of the question,
Piers, you think
for the purposes of the question, we're not all 5-year-olds. Why don't you just try and be an adult? Try and be an adult in the room and answer a straight question.
How about you don't talk over me?
No, how about you answer my question or you shut up?
Oh, did
Which one's it going to be?
Just tell me to shut up on
Yes,
the show.
I did. No, I gave you a choice. Answer the question or shut up. One of the two. Which one's it going to be?
You're not my dad, sweetheart.
Which one's it going to be?
You're not going to tell me what to do.
Okay.
And I'm
Ahmed, let me go to you, because you seem
the real question
like somebody who won't be calling me sweetheart or dad. No, I'm done with you. I'm sorry. I'm done with you, Miriam. You're a complete. I do actually on my own show. I do on my show. You're a complete and utter half-wit. So let me bring in Ahmed. Ahmed, should Hamas have any power at the end of all this or not?
Whether they should or shouldn't, Piers, it looks likely that they will, as we've heard from all the guests on this panel, essentially. That seems to be what Batya seemed to disagree with me on, even though I was just citing U.S. intelligence and Israeli officials. I do want to just say one thing is clear. I want to correct the record on two things, and I'm not going to take us back, Piers. But, it's in the Likud charter, and it was part of their 1977 election manifesto, this phrase, from the river to the sea. I think it's important that I bring it up because your previous guest said that it was in the Hamas charter. Of course, Hamas has only been around, for 20-some years. The double standards that this speaks to and how narratives around the phrase from the river to the sea are treated, not just by the media, reveals the power dynamics at play here. When Palestinians like myself say it, use it, I have it on a sweater, on a jacket, we're calling for liberation. We're calling for a demand for freedom from decades of displacement and apartheid. Yet, of course, it's twisted into a genocidal threat. Meanwhile, Israeli leaders like Netanyahu, who I think is best described as a war criminal, who has an arrest warrant issued against him, he openly uses it. He claims the same geography, expanding settlements, enforcing policies that erase Palestinians. An entire family was erased today, 11 of them, where they were displaced in Deir al-Balah. And, Piers, the one thing I want to say, I know we disagree on the rape thing, but I do want to say, the reason I interrupted Batya, not only because I was quite shocked to see someone from Newsweek use this sort of terminology and adjectives and language so loosely, but while the media and Batya fixate on these debunked and discredited narratives, let me just get through my sentence, it's largely ignored documented, verified cases of sexual violence committed by Israeli soldiers against Palestinian detainees, including video evidence. A recent UN report details systematic rape, torture, dehumanizing acts that were inflicted even against children. And that is Josh Paul, the former State Department that resigned, who says that. That is not me.
Okay, so I want to bring, we're running out of time. I need to bring in the others. I want to bring in Batya to respond, because Batya, you haven't had much chance.
Miriam, although being censored the majority of the time, did a very good job. Ahmed, great job. Jonathan, looking incapable as he always does. As Ahmed explained, and the information is widely available for everyone to see, there is no evidence when it comes to any of these claims. Please never forget the people who came live on air defending a genocide. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. Support me by liking and subscribing, and I'll see you on my next video. Peace out.